everyone, and welcome back to the My Pets Wellness Weekly Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Rebekah, and this week we have Dr. Rodney joining us, who's the Director of Wellness and Personal Growth. So Dr. Rodney, thanks so much for being here.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so this month we're talking about self-care in a very general sense, and this week specifically we're going to be talking about talk therapy, what it is and how people are able to implement that in their lives. So Dr. Rodney, I guess my first question for you would be just, can you give a little bit of context into what talk therapy actually is?
Talk therapy provides you with a sense of relief from whatever in your life might be of concern or is bothering you. It doesn't mean that you're all messed up. We all have something that was bothering us, that we're concerned about. Maybe we don't know how to exactly get out of it. Maybe I felt something that was an experience that was traumatic or unhealthy. And when we go through all those things, the tendency for most people is to just stuff it inside and keep it to themselves. But your self-talk can't usually help you in those kind of situations. You need to talk to somebody else.
So talk therapy is kind of getting all of those emotions that you have inside, or just kind of anything that you want to talk about and actually getting it out into the open and talking with somebody else about it. So it's as simple as that. And a lot of times talk therapy is with licensed therapists and counselors. Is that right? Or mental health professionals?
It doesn't have to be, but that's what I do. I mean, and it is helpful for somebody to have some experience.
Right.
The person you're talking to has to be willing to listen. Okay? They first have to listen to understand what those feelings are that you're having. Then, once they develop that routine of listening, you'll see them as a safe person and you'll invite them to give you some feedback. And it's helpful to be a professional that has gone through this many times with other people and for themselves, so that they can guide you on that way so that you're going to feel supported. That's what it's all about. The other person helps you to feel supported if they're willing to listen. Then they earn the right to give you some advice. You can go to somebody else other than a therapist. I do have a pretty strong recommendation though. When you try to talk to somebody, you think the best person to go to is your best friend. Well, they might make you feel supported, but there's transference in the relationship between the two people. They might not give you the right direction or advice because they're trying to figure out what you want them to say, and they'll say it.
Gotcha.
It's usually best to talk to somebody, whether a therapist or another acquaintance is not so close, because they're likely going to give you more support and more direction when needed, because they don't have a bias. So close friends or even family members are not necessarily the best person to talk to. I mean, I'm not saying you don't talk to your husband or your wife or your mom or your dad or your brother or sister. Just realize that the relationship itself can get in the way of feeling the relief that you need to feel as you talk to somebody about your feelings. And they're going to do things like, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. You're making a mountain out of a molehill. I felt that way before. You can get past it. That's not the right thing to say, because now I'm invalidating your feelings.
Exactly.
Okay? So the acquaintance, it's not so close, it's not a family member, or the therapist has an unbiased view without any transference.
Interesting.
So they will tell you that perhaps you're thinking or feeling the wrong things at that moment, and you might want to consider doing this. Also, you're going to be more likely to listen to the unattached person than the attached person.
Interesting, because they're more objective?
They're more objective.
Yeah.
And again, the family relationships are going on. So like if I talk to
tough
you,
dynamics there.
let's say we have a close relationship, okay? If I'm talking to you, well, we're brother and sister. Let's do it that way.
Right.
If I talk to you and share my feelings, are you going to keep it with just you?
I'd try to.
You're probably going to talk to your mom
but
and dad.
It's sometimes tough.
You're going to probably talk to your husband. You're going to probably see the relationships. We start doing this. A person that you're talking to has to maintain the confidentiality. If I know that you're going to gossip and tell somebody else, then I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm going to hide some things because I don't want them to know. If I wanted them to know, I would have went to them.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you.
Yeah.
But see, the family relationships or the close relationships gets in the way with that.
Gotcha.
Because I not only know you, but I know everybody else out there.
Mm-hmm.
When I go to the independent person that has no close relationship, they don't have anybody to gossip to. If they do, you don't know those people and you don't care.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't affect you.
So with that person, I will tell them exactly how I feel and I'll tell them what I'm bothered with because I'm not afraid that it's going to go to other people.
Gotcha. So you're able to be more open and
More
honest.
Yes.
How do you think talk therapy fits into someone's life? Do you think it is, specifically like going to a therapist or going to a counselor? Do you think that can be used as kind of preventative care, as kind of maintenance, or something that's used only when it's needed for like major life transitions or stressors? What kind of role do you think that should play in somebody's life?
Well, obviously, this is what I do for a living, so I think it's kind of important.
Right.
So here's what I want to tell you. I'll be transparent. Can I be transparent?
Please.
Right now, every Wednesday night I go to a therapist. I'm not all screwed up. I'm partly screwed up.
Right.
Do I still have issues? It's a sense of relief.
Yeah.
I believe in the power of talking about things, even if they're not major issues,
Right.
because it's the way that I process what's happening. If I try to self-process it, it's all inside.
Right.
When I talk to somebody else, that person makes me feel supported. So then on my own, even without their support, but it's helpful, I begin to see what I'm feeling and thinking in a different way.
Gotcha.
And then I will be able to decide if I need to go in a different direction. If I'm stuck, I could say, what do you think? And they will help me. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if I'm trying to do it all in here, I'm stuck inside of this and in this, and that might be part of the problem.
Right.
Every therapist I know has a therapist.
That makes sense.
Now, you might not go into them every week. Right now I am. I'm going through some stuff here. It's not too bad.
Right.
Or you might do it once a month or something like that. When you're in a clinical situation, we're always talking to each other, not about our clients.
Right.
How do you feel? Because we need an outside source to bounce our thoughts, our feelings, and our ideas off of somebody. It's a way of actually, I'm not looking for them to fix me. I fix myself. As I talk to somebody else, I'll see it in a different way. When I'm stuck, I can say, do you have a suggestion? And that's where maybe perhaps somebody that is an authority or has been taught this could be of better help. Okay, instead of saying, I don't have any freaking idea.
Right, right.
So now again, I know that costs money, but find somebody else. I'm going to suggest that you avoid close friends and family members because that's what you're all doing. And you're not being honest with them because you're afraid of what they think and they're afraid of what they're going to tell others.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
I think that makes total sense. It's almost like a therapist or someone who is kind of outside of the immediate situation can provide some perspective and kind of be a sounding board to help you, guide you in your own decision-making metrics and your own process for resolving these issues or just kind of daily life, figuring out your way forward. So it sounds like, a trusted source, whether that's a therapist or a counselor or someone who's removed from a situation. It sounds like that's something that can be used as kind of like a maintenance or preventative care even. Even if you're not experiencing something acutely that is life altering or monumental, it's, it would be helpful to just go and occasionally get things off your chest or talk about how you're feeling. It's good to get that out, it sounds like.
Can I add to that?
Please do.
Second law of thermodynamics. If you ignore a problem, it just gets worse. If you're constantly reflecting on a regular basis, it keeps it from getting worse.
Gotcha.
Then you're in a crisis situation and then you're in trouble.
Right.
If I'm routinely making sure I'm talking to somebody that makes me feel supported so I can process this stuff, then it's not going to spiral out of control and lead to generalized anxiety disorder, major depression, or panic attacks, and all those kind of things.
Right.
It's a way to keep you from getting there. When you try to do it yourself, you're going to be in the corner of a room in the fetal position, and you don't know what to do.
Right.
And you're just self-absorbed, and you can't think your way outside of the box.
Mm-hmm.
Understand what I mean?
So it sounds like it's another way of practicing self-care.
It is.
Is to go and talk to somebody about how you're feeling and making sure that you're, just like with a car. We had our analogy of the car a couple weeks ago. You have to make sure that you're changing the oil and rotating tires. And sure, something big might happen and might break down, but you're in a much better spot if you also have fresh oil and make sure that you're filling it up. So it's important to kind of maintain your emotional state and practice self-care in this way so that when something inevitably does happen, you're not starting in a deficit, is what it sounds like. It's good to kind of maintain that level of kind of stability and general self-care.
Right.
I've heard it can sometimes be difficult to find a therapist or a counselor that you really click with on a personal level. Do you recommend talking to a few different people before deciding on one therapist or counselor? And then I guess my follow-up question to that is, are therapists aware of this and are they understanding or accepting if you let them know that you've decided to switch to another therapist? Because I know that can be intimidating for a lot of people who are looking into this.
Never intimidates me.
Yeah.
I work very well with some people.
Mm-hmm.
Some people don't work well with me and I can't work with them because there might be some kind of transference, or maybe we don't just click. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm never upset if somebody says, I don't think we're working well together.
Okay.
I actually encourage people to go to several therapists before they settle on one.
Mm.
And because you'll find that each one is a different experience.
Absolutely.
Again, the person should be willing to listen to you and not just tell you what to do. As a therapist or a counselor, you're not supposed to tell somebody what to do. You're supposed to help them to figure out what's best for them so that they make the decision. If the therapist or counselor make the decision for you, you're not going to own that decision.
Right.
And everybody has a different way of doing it. I'm a pretty strong personality, and sometimes that people get off by that. So you just have to work around.
Gotcha.
I think people often make a mistake when they go to a first person and they stick with them because then they don't see any differences in approach and figure out what's happening to them.
Right.
Now, another problem related to that, and I don't know if this is going to be another question, is if you stay with somebody for a very long time, I'm not going to put a time limit on this. Okay?
Right.
They go from being a counselor, a therapist, or a disconnected party that's willing to listen and support you, and they become your friend. It's over. When the person goes from being disconnected from you to give that sounding board to you and they become your friend, you start talking about things that don't matter, and then they're going to go right back into a family member, a close relationship, and you're not going to tell them the truth and they won't tell you the truth because the friendship gets in the way.
You're worried they'll judge you.
Yeah. Dual roles in therapy and stuff. Therapists are not supposed to have dual roles.
Right.
You have to maintain that distance. You can't become your friend because when you become your friend, it's actually over.
Interesting. So it sounds like it's important to find someone you can connect to, someone you feel comfortable being honest with, but not someone that you are necessarily best friends with.
If you've been working with somebody for 3 or 4 months and you're making progress, it's probably an effective relationship.
Right.
If you start getting a place where no more progress is being made, that doesn't mean you don't have more progress to make because you're still feeling things that you need to talk about. That's when you have to say, something, I'm going to try somebody else for a while because we might be stuck a little bit.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Go. I want it to be effective. If you've had the same person for years, they're no longer your therapist, they're your friend, and you're just talking about the weather and the dogs and the cats and all that, and you're not ever getting to the real stuff.
And that's good to recognize. And like you said earlier, there's not necessarily a specific time limit on that, but it's good to be aware of that possibility. And for anyone out there who's thinking about, seeking counseling or therapy, it sounds like from someone who is in, the mental health industry, who's a mental health professional, feelings aren't hurt if you go and talk to a couple different people and make sure that you're finding a good fit. Everyone in the industry sounds like understands that and encourages it, actually. So
if they don't understand that, run.
There's a good metric for you.
Now they don't want to help you. They want to take your money.
Right.
I like the money. Do you like the money?
Yeah.
For what you do?
Yeah.
But the motivation is not the money.
Right.
I only want to work with people I'm helping. If I'm not helping you, I want you to go to somebody else.
Great.
I'll find somebody else to take your spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then the motivation is all wrong.
And I think that's important for everyone at home to recognize is, to feel comfortable with the idea that you can maybe talk to several different people. Don't be intimidated that the first person you're talking to, that it's not working out, but you have to stay with them. Don't feel like you have to stay in that therapy relationship. Another question that I have for you is why do you think there's been such a stigma around seeing a counselor or a therapist historically, if it's something that really everyone, if they're able to, could be taking advantage of for their own, self-care?
Personally, me and most of the people I know that do what I do, we're tired of this stigma. It's very damaging. Mm-hmm. Are you perfect?
No.
I'm not perfect.
No, I'm not.
Is anybody really perfect?
No.
If I find one, I'm going to freeze dry them and take them to Washington, D.C. and put them in the Smithsonian Institution.
Exactly.
And above their little cage, it's going to say the only perfect person in the United States. We all have issues. We all need help. We can't do it on our own. The stigma comes from two ways. I'm afraid to go to the therapist because somebody might think I'm going in there and I'm all screwed up. Well, you might have some issues. Doesn't mean you're screwed up.
Right.
I go every Wednesday night. I'm not screwed up necessarily, but I have, so there should be no stigma.
Right.
Other people think it's a sign of weakness. The strongest thing you could do for yourself, self-care, is that when you're in trouble, you know how to ask for help. If you try to figure it out for your own, that's the weakest thing you could do.
Right.
The actual act of strength is to realize when this is bigger than me and I need to talk to somebody. But in our culture and society, we're afraid of being seen as somebody with a problem. I personally don't know a single person in my life that doesn't have problems. Do you?
No, I don't.
So then what are we afraid of? Do we want to keep just ignoring it and making it worse, or do we want to go and find help? But the stigma's there, and I hate it. It's a misunderstanding of what that kind of a relationship is all about.
Right.
It's a helping relationship. It's not a telling relationship. The therapist or counselor does not tell you what to do. The therapist or counselor is not running your life. The therapist or counseling are helping you to come to the right decisions for you. I need help with that. You need help with that. When I see somebody going to therapy, I'm sitting there saying, yay. And I know I'm a therapist and I'm getting money. I'm not trying to be self-serving. That's the strongest person I know because they know they can't do it for themselves. When will this change? I don't know. I think there is a movement towards more acceptance of it.
I think so.
Because we have seen so many people in our culture, society, that have been ignoring their problems and it goes boom, literally or otherwise. And so there's more awareness of need for this. Because when a person has no sense of relief from what's bothering them, it'll just go and boil up inside and they will go boom. They will either die, they'll kill themselves, they'll get sick, or they'll hurt somebody else.
Right.
And they don't even know why they're doing it because their life is hopeless and helpless. Nobody's life is hopeless. Nobody's life is helpless. There's people that are willing to help with anything. It's when we try to do it ourselves that it becomes hopeless.
So the strength in it is in identifying that it is helpful to take care of yourself and to go seek, therapy or counseling, even as a maintenance kind of therapy. And it sounds like, in the past probably 5, maybe 10 years, there's been a lot of reduction around that stigma, which I think is really encouraging. And even kind of on a larger organizational level, I know a lot of companies have, EAP programs like the employee assistance programs that you are able to access, counseling or therapy. I know there are a lot of apps that are out there that, let you try it for free. So there's very low risk involved. For someone who's considering,
No, I'm sorry, on that subject.
Yeah.
Because of the coronavirus.
Oh, because COVID,
used to be that in the American Psychological Association and in our American community, it wasn't seen as good therapy to do it on Zooming, and we've got used to doing that. What we've actually found, and there's a shift here, it's not as effective because there's some barriers of the person being in the room and not in the room, but it's better than nothing. If a person is afraid of the stigma of being seen going, there's all kinds of groups that are now doing teletherapy. It's better than nothing. And nobody could see that you're in front of your computer talking to somebody a long way away. You don't have to be seen walking into a building. Do you understand that?
It can be
so
totally
my
anonymous.
encouragement on that is I'm still going to say, based upon my experience, the most effective therapy is personal therapy, where you can see all their body language and you can see their demeanor in a clear way and respond to them directly. But if there's a stigma that keeps you from going, you now have legitimate options that are oftentimes less expensive than going to somebody like me, okay? Because it's less expensive to them to provide the service. And at least you're doing something to get the help that you need, and nobody even knows you're doing it. Your husband, your wife, your family members don't even have to know that you're doing it.
Yeah. So that's a way to really be anonymous almost and make it something that's very personal that you don't have to necessarily share with other people, that you're doing for yourself. How would you encourage someone who is considering therapy but hasn't been able to make that first step? What types of things would you tell them or do to encourage them?
Don't be afraid. It's not as difficult as you think. When you connect with the right person as a support person, it'll be easy. It will be times of difficulty, but it's helpful. You'll make progress. And so stop fearing the process. You have to trust the process. Give it a try. If you've never tried it, you don't know how it feels to talk to somebody else about what you're struggling with. It's a tremendous sense of relief. And so jump in the pool, get wet, and see if you like it or don't like it.
Awesome.
Again, some people are afraid of the personal contact, if you get what I'm saying. You've got those other options. At least try something. And don't worry about the stigma. If somebody thinks that you're weak because you're going to therapy, that's not you. It's who? It's them. That's their opinion of you. It doesn't matter what they think of you. It only matters what you think of yourself. If you know you're doing a strong thing by getting help, don't worry about those people that don't want to get help because they're in trouble because they don't ever get help. And they're going to go boom someday. Trust me.
We hope not, but it is good to recognize, again, that there are options out there if you don't feel comfortable having the face-to-face, or if it's something you even just want to try casually once or twice and see how you feel afterwards. It sounds like the biggest thing is just making that first step. Just get your feet wet, try it, see how it feels to you, and then kind of go from there. So awesome. Well, I know that this is something that would be really helpful for a lot of veterinarians out there. I know there are a lot of different support groups out there for vets, and talking to therapists and counselors has helped me in my professional life and my practice. So I'd encourage all veterinarians and technicians that are out there to really consider making that first step. So thank you so much, Dr. Rodney. I think this has been really informative, and I hope that for y'all at home, it's encouraged you to take that first step towards improving your wellness and your well-being. So thank you again, and thanks y'all for joining us this week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're also available on Spotify, and we look forward to seeing y'all next time. Take care.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.